Okay, welcome to the part 4 of the Go and Flutter secure chat application that we are all building together. In this video, we are going to look at how we can return a JSON response for our API endpoint. So, because a JSON response is the one that we can take in and also have access to it in the Flutter. So how we can return a JSON response in the API response is what we are going to tackle now. So stay tuned as we get in. Let's jump into it by code. Okay, so from the last tutorial we made our first endpoint in which we used Insomnia to go to this URL and we got what was in this function. That is just print hello while creating new user over there. But we can't be just outputting a string. A string is very hard to format in the front end side, which is our Flutter app that we are going to build. So in order to get this, in order to let it be more convenient for us to work with in our browser, we need to have it in a JSON format. So in a JSON format, and when you have to talk about JSON format, it's something like this. We need to output our data in a form like this one. That we are going to have some list of items in which it is going to each is going to have a key value pair so that we can use this key to access its value. So example of a JSON format is like this one. So how are we going to make our API to be able to return this JSON format for us? From here, that's where we get into it. And in order to do that one, what we will do is we will in our API folder over here, we will create another file and the file is going to be named helper. I'll call it helper.go. Go helper.go and the package, I think it is in the API. In the last video, we emphasized that the packages in the API have the package name to be main. So I'll create a function in which that function is going to be a method on the API type that we define in the main, this one. So I'll have this and it will be a pointer to that API class and I'll call it write JSON. I'll call it write JSON. Let me name it as this, write JSON as this one. And it's going to take some couple of variables. One is going to be the response writer. So I'll use W as a variable name for http dot response writer. And the next variable is going to be the status code. That is either 404 or created. I will look into the status code in the subsequent video. So here you have a status code and the status code is going to be an, I'll call it status and an integer. I'll just be int like this. And the next one is going to be the data itself. And the data is going to be an interface. It's going to be an interface and I'll make it in the form. So the data that we are coming to return is the one that will have a type of an interface. And the next one is the header that we are returning. Maybe it may include some we can't it may include some metadata that I want to return to the client. So here we'll be having the header and I'll call that to be header and that is going to be http dot header, right? This one http dot header, and what this is going to return is error. If there is any error, then we are going to return it right away. If not, then we will just return a nil. So how are we going to get this up and running? First of all, we will have I'll give a name at JS, JS meaning JSON, or I'll make it JS. If I make it JSON, there is a package in it in Go itself that is called JSON, but it will be very hard for us to get it. So I will call it JS, and that is going to be the JS. And here, what I'm going to call return two things. So first of all, let me get, you have what we call JSON dot, and there is a key that is a certain inbuilt function that is in Go itself that help us to return a JSON, that helps in encoding JSON. So I'll just call that function that is marshal, and we will just marshal the data, which is going to be an interface. We get an interface and return it to JSON. And when we hover over this, we can see that we get it in the first one is byte, and after the byte, then an error. So it returns two different types. So the first one is going to be the JS that we want, and the second one I'll store that in an error function, and I will assign those things to it. And in Go, you cannot assign a value to a certain variable without using the variable. That's why it flags an error over here. So what I will do is I will check if the error is not equal to nil. In most languages, it will be null, but in Go, they call it nil. So if the error is not equal to nil, it means that what we try to have contain, what we try to convert to JSON contains a certain error. So what we will do is we will return that error. And the next one that we are going to check is we are going to append next line, so that whenever it tries, we are embedding another data to it. It just append to the next line so that it won't go to it won't be structured in one line or a one line format. So we are going to do it by reassigning the JS again, and here since we have already assigned, we can use the column and equal to, we use only equal to sign, and we will call the function append. And what are you going to append? We append the JS by using this keyword, and you need to be very careful here. Here we use a more a single quote. So you append /n. That is what is termed as next line. And after that, you look at different headers and we assign the header to it. So I'll just do for, and I'll call the key and the value. The key and the value over here, and I will assign that to be the range. And what this range is doing is trying to go through each of the header. So each of the header. So the headers are in something like the same as JSON format. So the headers that we are bringing will be in the JSON format, and you look through each of them. The JSON format actually contains key value pair. We want the key and we will hold the value. And what are we going to do with this one? What we will do is we will take the response writer and we check its header. And what we are going to do is we will take the key to that writer and we assign the value to it. So anything that you pass in this header, you assign it to the header function over here, and it's going to return that. And before we can do this, what we need to have is we need to set our content type to be a JSON content type, so that whatever browser, if it is a browser or any client or anything that is trying to get a response or send the request and waiting for the response, it will send it back to it as a JSON format. So that is what? How can we do that? We will just use this and the header, and we will just use header, and we will use the keyword get. And what are we going to get? We are going here. This get, when you check it, have the key and the value. So the value is going to be the content type. So the content hyphen type like this, and its value. In order to send the JSON format, we are just trying to tell it that this its value is going to be application slash JSON like this one. And after this, we will just say the response writer to write its header. And what it will be in the header code, we are going to get the status to the header so that we will know the status code that it returns, either an F004 status code, an unauthorized status code, or created status code, or OK, something like that. That's what we are resetting this again. So whatever header that we pass in it here already, we are setting the status, we are appending the status header to it again. So that is what this function is trying to do. And the next one that we will do is we will then use this response writer, and we are going to write the JS, which is the JSON that we encoded over here. And after that, we will return. If all these are able to be done, then it means that no error happened, and we are going to return nil for the error. We are going to return nil for the error. So I'll just save this file. Okay, I'll define how can I use it. How can I use it? In order to use it, so over here, what we will do is we will just go to this, and instead of returning this, what we can do, I will remove this fmt over there, and I need to remove it from the import because we cannot output, or you cannot import what we will be using. That is an error in Go. So I will just get my data, and the data takes an interface. So I will just say the interface, I will just map it as a string, the key to be string and its value of to be string. So I will, to get the key to be string, I will just say string over here, and also its value of O is going to be string like this. So what I will do is I will just say message. I will just say message, and its value is going to be creating new user like this one, and I'll come down here and I'll use this API. I think the function we created over here is a method on the API. I can use this API variable over here to access that method at write JSON. And what JSON that am I going to write? First of all, I'll use the response writer that it is passed over here. And the next value is going to be the status. So the status here is going, we are having a get request. So we are going to use http://status. So get request have a status OK. So we are going to use that. And the next one is going to be the data itself. So as we assign it value to be data, we will have it data like that. And the next one is going to be the header. Can not get any header for this, so I'm going to make it nil. And in this one return an error, we check if there is any error. So I will just assign that value to an error function over here. And taking a mistake. Okay. So I will check if the error is not equal to nil. If it is not equal to nil, then what I can do is I will then use the API and access the logger, and I will use what they call print. I'll use a function called print line. So print line, and I'll print that arrow over there. And after printing that error, then you have an HTTP error also. I'll just say HTTP error, and this error is going to have the response writer, and the next value is the market. So I'll just say something like the server and counter an error, and you will just have its header to be http dot status internal server error. So I will use a status because this error requires the response writer, the error in the code. So the code is the status code. So I'll just use status internal server error, and internal server error status code is just 500. So we don't want to get hard coded. That's why we are using this one. Okay, save this, and then my phone here. And what I need to do to run the app, so I'll go to the terminal and go to new terminal, and I'll put the new terminal over here, and I'll use the function go run. And if I click on OK and wait for some time, it's compiling everything, and with time, okay. So I need to get the Windows firewall. I've switched from Mac to Windows. That's why I'm having this, and I need to allow this one to run. Okay. So over here it says development, starting development server on port 4000. So I can go here, and the URL again, over here, and I can just, let me see if I can change the preference to look more big. Go font, I think the system font is too long. Let me make it something like 20. Okay, so it makes very big, and the text is to be also like 22 so that it will be more clear. So, okay, so I think now it can be seen properly. So this is it, and if you can check in the route, it is still a get request. So you can have it over here. You can let a get request from it, and you just push send, and it say could not recall. Okay, so we may spell localhost, so it's localhost like this. And now we are having our JSON format. Over here, and it's looking very, very, very nice. So you can see the header, the type is application JSON as we set over there, and the content length is 32, and with everything is asking. So if you see this very interested, just hit the subscribe and hit the notification so that when we have input any if you try to get any, if I send any video, you get on this series that we are all tackling. Stay tuned, subscribe, and see you in the next video. Comment if you don't have any understanding. See you in the next video. Bye bye.